Combat sports never fail to deliver when it comes to excitement, but it's no secret there's been an epidemic of cheating plaguing both boxing and MMA for decades. With USADA though, the UFC seems to have cleaned up the sport, and it seems like everyone who tries to cheat gets caught. But no matter how good things look, we can't be sure things are 100% above board. Chito Vera certainly seems to be concerned. First up, Marlon Vera expresses his opinions on USADA. Recently, he made an appearance on the Counts podcast with Anthony Smith, and it was pure entertainment. These guys definitely seem to have some amazing chemistry, but no matter how much we want to gush over how entertaining it was, some important things came up that we've gotta talk about. It's been a few weeks since Bobby Green accused Islam of doping, and just when the UFC's steroid plague comes close to fading out of our minds, someone else brings it up again. That's right, the Ecuadorian fighter expressed some serious concerns with the way USADA works, and the guy straight up claimed that there were active cheaters in the UFC. We don't know, guys, it seems unlikely to us. We mean, USADA is the boogeyman that haunts fighters' dreams. They spare no one and show up to test the UFC stars at all sorts of ungodly hours. Honestly, who can forget what happened to Costa? Yeah, being tested in the middle of the night before a big fight. That's rough. Anyway, if you're confused like we were, don't worry because Chito talked about it all in detail. The mixed martial artist made sure we understood where he was coming from. Honestly, guys, some of the things he said were really good points, things we've not heard much before in this UFC doping conversation. Want to find out? Keep watching. Following up, he thinks the USADA isn't 100% effective. Alright guys, as promised, let's get into what the guy said. He brought up some points about how the UFC's system wasn't foolproof. And it's true, as much as we all like to think that the sport is clean, athletes can just leave the testing pool and enter it again whenever they want. We mean, look at what Conor did. Vera pointed this out. He talked about how, once a fighter retires, USADA no longer tests them and they can dope for as long as they want, only to return to the sport. Now you might be thinking, does it matter that inactive fighters can get on the juice? Well guys, it kinda does. Think about it. When you take steroids, your system receives a permanent benefit. Even if you stop taking the stuff, you can get a lot done while you're on it. Take Conor for example. The guy took career-ending damage and left the USADA pool to recover. Now he's healed from an injury that should have downed him for a few years in just one. And don't get us wrong, we're happy for Mac, but the point is, even now that he's back in the USADA pool, he's managed to achieve a physique that would take a lot more effort to attain naturally. Also, we feel like we gotta say, Conor maintains he never took any PEDs, and you can believe him if you want to, but we don't know. Anyway, Chito's point is valid. No one can deny that there are loopholes. Coming up, the fighter elaborates on ways people could be cheating even now. If you were satisfied with the explanation of Marlon's views we've given you till now, well, there's a lot more where that came from. Chito went over some of the ways he was concerned USADA was falling short. Yeah, the Ecuadorian star is concerned about more than just fighters' ability to leave the pool. According to Vera, the organization can't conduct testing, even if it's random, at any time other than between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. We haven't ever really heard such an argument before, but it does sort of make sense. We understand that he's trying to say that USADA doesn't do 24-hour coverage, and while you might think that's not a big deal, the guy goes on to tell us exactly why it's dangerous. It's no secret, guys, that cheaters find new ways to cheat whatever system exists, and so you won't be surprised to know that there are now new PEDs that can be taken overnight and leave no trace. Yeah, imagine taking a PED at night and by morning it's out of your system. That's something that could exploit the lack of 24-hour coverage by the organization. What's more, the fighter expressed his concerns regarding the testing of athletes doing their camps abroad. Yeah, this one makes perfect sense. How can we expect that it reliably tests fighters out in Russia or some third world nation? It's concerning. Next up, he would rather die than cheat. After expressing his concern about the active cheating going on in the UFC, Marlon made sure to let fans know he'd never engage in it. Honestly, we didn't ever doubt the guy, but we're sure it helps fans to be able to hear their favorite stars denouncing cheating. Even Bisping and Smith joined in and declared they were above such behaviors as well. And honestly, we've got to show respect, especially when you consider Bisping lost his eye to a juiced-up Vitor Belfort, who he fought when he was completely natural. It's kind of repetitive at this point, but the Count's story should remind us of how dangerous PED use can be for fighters that aren't cheating, and we appreciate Chito for bringing it up. It's not like these guys guys are worried over nothing. We mean, over the years lots of fighters have been caught cheating. Let's talk about a few of the most insane cases. First up, Ken Shamrock. That's right guys, even UFC legends were using PEDs at one point. USADA cleaned up the sport, but before that, well, everyone was on something. It was the Wild West. Of course, there were exceptions like Bisping and GSP, who had the morals and the guts to go up against steroid-enhanced fighters while staying natural themselves. But one legend of the sport who didn't have such a strong moral compass was Ken Shamrock. The man is a UFC Hall of Famer and one of the all-time greats of the sport. Unfortunately for him though, he was caught using PEDs at the tail end of his career and besmirched his legacy. You almost got away with it, Ken. We can't say it was surprising though. His brother and fellow legend Frank Shamrock was one of the people accusing him of cheating. Honestly guys, it's a real shame that such a legend ended his career on a steroid suspension. But that's what happened, and he retired at the age of 52 when he was caught and suspended. We're glad guys like GSP and Bisping were around to inspire future clean fighters like Cheeto, because imagine the damage if the only available role models were guys like Shamrock. Next up, Vitor Belfort. This is another guy that fought before USADA and was so heavily involved with the UFC, and while he is a legend, he was also caught on PEDs. Once again, it's just so disappointing when these big names decide to throw it all away for an unfair advantage. It was winning over honor for some of these guys. Belfort didn't just cheat though, he did a lot of damage in the process. This man went on a steroid-backed tear through the UFC, and throughout his career he faced numerous steroid-related trials. Yep, the man failed test after test. And guys, this wasn't just cheating, it was also very dangerous for the fighters going up against him. We mean, look at what happened to Bisping. The Count stepped into the cage with a PED-enhanced Belfort in an impressive display of bravery. And while we were all rooting for him, the fight didn't go so well. Honestly, it's insane that the most punishment Belfort ever received was a $10,000 fine and 9 months off. Yeah, it's especially unfair when you consider what the organization did to Nick Diaz. We mean, sure, the guy had drugs in his system, but they weren't PEDs like what happened with Vitor. Now, the UFC has had moments where they enforced the rules impartially, but this wasn't one of them. Coming up, TJ Dillashaw. This bantamweight contender made big waves when he stormed the division and beat the legendary champion Renan Barrio. Dillashaw won glory and also the bantamweight belt. He did lose it once to another legend, Dominic Cruz, but once he got it back, it didn't look like anyone was going to stop him. Given the momentum he had, he decided to take a shot at being a double champ. That's right, he challenged the king of cringe, Cejudo himself. Unfortunately, this fight didn't go so well. The man got destroyed, and his first round defeat was followed by news of a failed drug test. Honestly, we're glad he got caught, because not only is this stuff damaging to the sport, it's genuinely just dangerous to the other fighters. Yep, the champ was disgraced, and the UFC decided they weren't going to let him get away with it. They stripped him of the bantamweight title, and he was fined $10,000. And to top all that off, he was suspended for 2 years. Honestly, it was bad, but we didn't feel bad for the guy. If you cheat, you pay. Finally, Chael Sonnen. His name is one of the biggest in the UFC, and the guy would have been champ for sure if Silva wasn't around. Unfortunately though, Uncle Chael isn't just famous for his amazing trash talk and wrestling skills. No, the guy has some much more embarrassing claims to fame as well. That's right guys, we're talking about the unfortunate end of his UFC career. The guy failed test after test, and one of them even revealed that he had 16 times the testosterone of a regular human in his system. 16 times? That's insane. Yeah, as Bisping would say, Sonnen was juiced to the gills. We gotta say, this one was just extra disappointing. Why would you want to forever tarnish your legacy like this? Honestly, the way he went out was more than just embarrassing. The guy got suspended for 2 years, and not only that, but the UFC also took away his analyst position. Ouch, talk about fumbling the bag. Once again, we've gotta respect the UFC for enforcing the rules. Hopefully they'll continue to do so, and we won't ever get a repeat of Vitor and the way he got away with so much. That's it for this one, guys. Can you think of any other fighters that got caught on the juice? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, like and subscribe. See you in the next one.